Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and a special thank you to Chelsea, who'll be presenting. Just
Thank you.
before we get underway and I hand over control, on your control panel you'll see, or you should see, the ability to raise your hand and ask questions and so on. So if a couple of people could just raise their hands using the control, just to let us know that they can hear me and hear Chelsea and also see the screen. Okay, perfect. And as we're running through, or as Chelsea's running through the presentation this afternoon, if you do have questions, please type them into the box and we'll come back to those at the end. There should be an area there where you can type in questions. And I'll be going through those and I'll read them out to Chelsea after the presentation. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Chelsea and she will introduce herself and the topic for this afternoon. So thanks, Chelsea.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi, everybody. It's very strange talking to people that I can't see. So it's like kind of a leap of faith. So my name's Chelsea Wright, and I may have even met some of you doing the rounds, but I manage the library at Salesian College in Sunbury, which is, we are just on the outskirts of metropolitan Melbourne. My background is mostly in tertiary libraries, so school library has been a new experience for me. And I have to say I prefer the school library environment to the academic library environment because I just love the kids and they seem a little more excited about what I do than uni students. And since I started working at Salesian College, which was, I actually started there baptism by fire in November 2013, one of the biggest challenges that I have had, which has been quite an enjoyable challenge, has been getting online services up off the ground. Because when I started, we really didn't have anything much to speak of in the way of online services. So the scribbly picture that you can see on your screen at the moment, and I'm quite a fan of using scribbly pictures because I like to show how there is a hell of a lot of mind mapping involved with good online services, and there's a lot of preparatory work that goes into making something look simple, I suppose. A lot of complexity behind simple things. So this little picture here is just a section of scribbles that my staff and I have been doing lately, and that's where we are right now with online services. So to give you an idea of what that means, our school has just moved over to SharePoint as a learning management system, and don't know if any of you are familiar with SharePoint, but it's just a massive, massive platform. It's impossible to know all there is to know about SharePoint, but it's a very exciting application because it has so much potential. Although I'm thinking that it's going to take us quite a while to get where we hope to be, which is total integration of our online services within the learning management system. So we have a SharePoint platform, and that's the outer square. The ideal would be for us to have our library website embedded into that, whether it's embedded or whether we create a whole new page within SharePoint, I'm not sure. It depends on how far I get with my SharePoint designer, and it's a bit tricky. But somehow or other we want our presence to be there right at the forefront, right on the very first page when the students come in to check on their lesson plans and download the materials that their teachers put in there for them. So that's where we want to be, right there at the very start on the landing page. Probably it would end up being a button that leads you to a page. But what we don't want is for students to have to visit an entirely separate website with an entirely different web address and access resources with multiple passwords and multiple usernames, because that just gets too messy and too difficult, and that is something I've learned from my days at tertiary libraries, is that the easier you can make it, the higher the user involvement becomes. So authentication is a very, very important part of the process. And I guess every school is different. Our school, we use an Active Directory authentication method. So that means that it's quite easy for me, luckily, to have authentication set up for the various subscription services, because it's one of the most popular methods of authenticating users that is out there. And I won't go too much into that because it could be a bit techie, and really I don't want this talk to be about techie stuff. It's more top level, hopefully interesting, hopefully useful things that you can take back and incorporate into your library. So we have the big portal, then we have the library website sitting in the middle, and then from there we have online services. And so we've put lots of little bits and pieces in there that we think we would like to see on our website. Some of it's there already. Some of it was there in other incarnations, but we would like it to be organised, and so we're going through the process of putting the pieces together at the moment. But you can see in the middle we've put student voice, and so we think that one of the most important parts about online services for libraries is that, in a school context anyway, is that there is a strong student voice presence. So you might need to put your sunglasses on, but I'm going to show you the beginnings of our website, which will be incorporated into our learning management system, as I said. It all looks a bit bright at the moment, but these colours will change because, as you can see, it's under construction. But the whole idea will be that this landing page will be full of bits and pieces from students about what they're doing and what they've read, and pictures of clubs and activities and makerspace stuff, and just a sort of patchwork quilt of students talking about what they care about in the library and in the school. We've just started setting up a whole series of blogs. What's the Haps is one that we just set up a couple of days ago, and that'll be full of content soon, created by one of our more enthusiastic students who likes to rove around the library and interview people about what they're doing in the library and what they like about it, and have they been to the clubs, and if not, why not, and that kind of thing. But hopefully what we'll do is we will integrate some kind of student voice into every single page. Even in the referencing page, I can see scope for students talking about, what resources they've used and why it was useful for their assignment, and so on and so forth. But at the moment it's very basic and it's under construction. One area I'd like to show you is we have a search button. If we click that, it takes you directly to our Infiniti log-on page. But I have also purchased a discovery layer, EBSCO discovery layer, which I'm just in the throes of putting together. And what that will do is it will enable me to provide a single point of search for all of our resources. And my idea isn't so much to integrate, it's not so much to integrate the catalogue with this, it's just to provide a single port of call for our digital resources, because a lot of the kids just don't know where to start. I will also populate this page with separate links to all the individual databases, because some students find it easier if they're looking for history, they want to go to the history database and they don't care so much about the overlap. But I like the idea of having search fields in here. And Adrian's provided me with a little snippet of code that's enabled me to pop a login window here as well, so we can, at the moment, because we haven't integrated anything properly, it doesn't really work that well. But I did test out the discovery layer earlier, and I typed in frogs, and it came up with this list of results. So this is the full text list search results anyway, and it's quite attractive. And so the idea would be that eventually, if we wanted to, we could select certain items from our catalogue and have those searchable within here as well. And of course, most of the content that we have in here we can also pop into our Infiniti OPAC as well. So it's not really one or the other. My hope is that if you're in the OPAC, you can get to other places, and if you're in other places, you can get to the OPAC. So the idea is to sort of mix and match it up, so that wherever a student happens to be, they have choices about how they access our content and which content they access. So I've probably rambled a little too long on that point. So this is a very intelligent diagram that I did earlier when I was thinking about what this talk would be about. And actually it's about going from nothing to something to who knows where. And I say who knows where because I see online services as something that is continually growing and continually changing, and as the school changes their policies on usage of devices, and as the internet becomes better or worse or in different areas, or, you know, all of these, the technological landscape is just continually changing, and so therefore in response to that, so is online services. But taking you right back to the very beginning, since I suppose this talk is a bit of a sharing of the journey, in 2013, in November when I started, as I said, we pretty much had nothing. We did have a library system, obviously, and you could do a search, but you couldn't do a search off campus. It was only on campus. Nobody used it except the librarians, and even for us, we found it very user unfriendly. And I think part of that was because we had it in the out-of-the-box format. I had a look into what would be required to configure it and add some code and make it look pretty and make it more user-friendly, and it was just too hard basket. So I thought I better go out there and find something that out of the box it looks good, because I just didn't have the time when I first started working there to devote my hours to learning new languages to make a piece of software look better. So of course, that was the OPAC problem. The second problem that I identified was that we had problems with communication. So in other words, we had no communication. One of the beauties of online services, of course, is that it enables you to communicate with your student and teacher population and even the parents through the website, through social media, through RSS feeds. All those things provide librarians with the opportunity to talk to their audience and for their audience to talk back. Because if we don't hear back, we don't know how people are feeling. So we had none of that. The only interaction that was happening was face-to-face. Third big thing that we noticed probably needed some attention was resources. So in terms of online resources, we had no ebooks, we had no e-audiobooks, no online video. I think we had Foxtel, but that was problematic for a whole bunch of reasons. We had a couple of databases that nobody used because no one had the address, and of course, once again, because we hadn't at that point set up access through Active Directory, everybody had to learn this incredibly complicated username and password, and of course no one ever remembered it. We didn't have any guides, online guides, and we didn't have any digital tools at all, so we had nothing. So it was quite exciting to have nothing because, of course, building things up from nothing is always very, very good. And I don't want to paint a picture that our library was terrible, because it wasn't. It was wonderful. It was and still is a very dynamic place with kids who love it and staff who really love the students, teachers who love us, and it's very busy. We've always had anywhere between 80 and 120 kids in our tiny space at lunchtimes doing all sorts of things, and that's wonderful, but it's just that we didn't have these online services bedded down. So where to start? Those are the three main areas that we identified that were the main problems. And to start, we broke it into little pieces. I'm a big believer in getting support structures in place before you build the thing. So we didn't actually start purchasing databases or looking into social media or anything like that until we'd had quite a few discussions about our strategy and what we stood for as a library. And, you know, we developed a vision statement and talked to teachers and talked to students and asked them what they wanted and that sort of thing. But there were quite a few formal documents missing that really had to be put into place before we could start buying and building. And of course, some of those documents had to do with asking for money. So there was a huge budgeting component that I had to go through. And I guess it's just a matter of presenting your case and linking it to the curriculum and linking it to student outcomes and showing examples of schools and how online services has increased their academic outcome and increased their involvement with learning and all those other great things that online services provides. Strategic plan is what I identify as being the thing that all of those actions hang off. But having said that, the strategic plan isn't really the foundation from which everything grows. In my mind, it's the library vision, because you have to know what you stand for before you start planning. And obviously school policy and the school vision inform our vision because we are part of the school, but we are unique. So we had to identify what that meant. And so we did, and this was a collaborative endeavour. But what we did was we designed a library mission statement. That's our library mission statement there. So I'll read it. To provide an inclusive, responsive and engaging library service which meets the academic and recreational information needs of 21st century students and education staff in a Catholic school community environment. Nowhere in there does it mention online services specifically, but I think that an engaging library service, you know, it just goes without saying that a portion of that is going to have something to do with online services. And the information needs of 21st century students will certainly, we know that our kids live online, screenagers as they call them. So we're really not meeting the needs of our students this century if we aren't online, and in a big way, I don't think. So we created a library vision and goals statement, and part of that was the mission statement. And this is what it looked like. Well, this is the draft anyway. And basically the format that I chose was to break it up into 8 guiding statements, because then they're bite-sized pieces that can be easily understood, and it doesn't end up too wishy-washy, because a lot of vision and goal-related stuff can end up sounding very much like mountains out of molehills. So we talk about what it means, and then we just kind of go straight into listing. Maybe not straight into, straight into listing each goal page by page, and giving a little bit more information about what those guiding statements include. And so scattered throughout those guiding statements, there is quite a lot of mention about engagement, technology, progress, innovation, that sort of thing. So we now have a vision statement that supports our dream and our intention to create great online services. That's why we're going to be doing it. And then the very next step is to create the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is, and this is my little diagram here, so there's your vision, that creates a platform for the strategic plan. The strategic plan forms a platform for the individual projects and tasks that have to be done to get the thing off the ground. So the strategic plan, it took a long time, and you know, we did a short one and we did a long-term one, and I'll give you an example of of one. This is this year's strategic plan, and I use the same format every year, and I try to make it a very easy format for executive to read, because they tend to be time poor, and I understand that, you know, their number one priority isn't necessarily to read through pages and pages of library stuff. So, but I want them to understand what it is that we want to do and that we're serious about it and it's going to get done, and this is how they can tell that it has been done at the end. So we have a whole section in our strategic plan now that talks about online services. So basically, these are our objectives. There's the online services section in the middle. So at the moment, we're wanting to increase usage. I mean, that's something that we try to do all the time anyway. And we want to incorporate student voice into the library's website, as I mentioned earlier. We want to expand online services to include more digital resources and tools. And that's sort of where we now feel that we've come so far that we've got to the exciting point where we're able to really start becoming innovative. Whereas back in 2014, we were still at the stage of putting down the first bricks. So the initiatives that we will take to get these goals achieved are listed here, and the bits that are highlighted in yellow are things that I've identified as actual projects. These are things that are quite big and will probably require some project management software to organise. So we're well on the way to doing all of these things. And at the end of the year, when I sit down with the business manager, hopefully these key performance indicators will be ticked off, and we can report that the library has successfully done what it said it would do, which is the whole point of a strategic plan. So that's the strategy side of things. But of course, and here's another nice messy piece of paper for you. But of course, there's all this brainstorming, and so since one of our big points at the moment is to include student voice and get that communication, back and forth communication happening between students and ourselves, we decided this year that we would place communication at the very centre of our online services. And I guess for a school library, that's I guess the traditional approach is to place learning at the centre of everything. I think that in a school it's hard to avoid learning, and I don't have a problem placing communication in the centre, and I think that when you place communication in the centre, it facilitates learning. So we thought everything we did would be communication centric, geared towards communication. What are we telling the students? Are we asking them? Are we involving them? Are we getting feedback? Do we have social media? All that kind of stuff. I might skim past this slide because I've just basically gone into it already. But yeah, so some other things that we think or we thought we may do that have been done now is things like, so for communication, set up a library email address, just a generic library @ so that kids know if they want to contact someone in the library, they just email library @ scr.vic.edu.au or whatever your school email is with. Things like that we brought in last year have really helped to get us to the point now where we are. And in terms of resourcing and OPACs and all of that stuff, we've always gone for usability and access. So with the OPAC, I'm assuming most of you are users of Infiniti. That was the biggie for us, was that compared to other OPACs that we looked at, it had an extremely clean, easy to use, unambiguous landing page. It was attractive, and using it really required no explanation. And that's what I wanted. So same thing goes for all of our resources. We try to pick databases that are easy to use. So Britannica Schools seems to be a very easy one to use. And for those that aren't so easy to use, we try to get into the classrooms and teach the kids, but still there's a limit to what they'll put up with. Um, oops, ebooks and audiobooks was something that we brought in. We tried using wheelers at first, and we found that it was problematic because there's this requirement to get Adobe Digital Editions, and it just made the process of actually accessing the content so laborious for some kids that they just gave up. So that was really sad, because they do offer a lot of great content. So we actually switched over to Belinda, which is a lot more expensive, but they gave us a big discount in the first year, so that's when we bought the majority of our collection. And those ebooks and audiobooks in Belinda, in Borrowbox, which is the name of their app, have proved to be extremely popular. And not just for recreational usage, but also we're able to buy most of the novels that the kids read, the prescribed novels, most of them we're able to buy in audio format, which helps a lot for kids who have difficulty reading. And our school has a higher than average enrolment of students who have funded places with learning disabilities, and lots of dyslexic kids. You know, in the past we had teachers literally reading the novels to the kids regularly. Once a week they'd sit down and read a few chapters. And that's just, you know, that's crazy, given that nowadays we have digital content that can deliver that kind of thing. So wherever we can, we do that. If there isn't an audiobook copy of something available, we try and get it on a CD, and sometimes find that you can actually browse YouTube and find that someone's reading it online. So we usually find some way around it. There are some narrow clauses in copyright law that would enable you to produce an audio copy of a novel if that format isn't available commercially, and of course you have to deal with it and handle it you know, in a special way. So it's not, you're not allowed to sort of keep it just in case, and obviously it's non-commercial use and it has to be given to just those students who have those needs. But there is a way of providing that stuff. But with our ebooks and audiobooks, it has enhanced engagement, and especially with the older students who stopped visiting the library, they have now started reading a lot more. And our statistics tell us that. So just last year, 14% of our usage came from Belinda. And to think that we didn't have that before, I just think that's a huge percentage of our total usage that just wasn't there before. And it's not like this piece of the pie was filled up with something else. This just wasn't there. So that's a lot of extra engagement that we're getting. And our active users, so active users are users who are actually borrowing things. So it's not enough just to be to enlist with the product and have the app on your phone. You have to actually be borrowing things to get into the stats. But you can see our active users are going up and up and up each year, going back to July 2015, which is as far back as I could go, unfortunately. But we're slowly becoming a lot more popular, and individual loans are also looking very healthy. And it's interesting, you can see that ebooks, right off the bat, we had no problem selling the ebooks to the kids, especially with the Year 7s, who were all excited about having their new iPads to use in the Year 8s. But audiobooks took a little longer to get going, and I actually attribute this rise in the beginning of the year to new partnerships that the library has developed with learning support. We've really started hitting access and equity hard and trying to get alternative formats for kids who can't read, or can't read properly or can't read well. What are they supposed to do? So we have had a lot of success with that, and I'd say that's probably why we're seeing the spike here. But it's encouraging anyway. Databases was and still is one of those things that we're trying to work out what's the best option, which databases. We try to cover as broad an area as we can. Obviously, you go into the class and you do search skills and research skills and those sorts of things, and that helps with usage. And just explaining to the kids what databases are in the first place, as you all know, is part of the problem. And also getting teachers to use them and getting teachers to incorporate the databases into their classes, into their class plans. But we've mixed and matched and tried out a few different ones. And no matter which databases we've used, we've found that the best approach to increasing usage is to place links to them wherever we can. And so on our Infiniti page, thanks to the fact that I can actually put custom HTML on there, we have our databases, or these are the current ones, listed right here. So the idea is that if a kid comes into the library and visits one of the OPACs, they can look for books up here, but if they also want to look for articles, well, they can go in individually to each of the databases. And because this, because our Infiniti site is protected through Active Directory, we were able to obtain password embedded URLs from most of the database providers, meaning that if I click on one, I'm not asked to log in, which is the difference between a kid using it and not using it half the time. So some of these databases, you know, obviously Access Science is just not possible, they don't offer that, but all the others tend to. So that's something that makes life a lot easier. And of course, if we just stuck these on our LibGuides site, you know, we wouldn't be able to put a password embedded URL onto our LibGuide site because, you know, we're paying for it, and the understanding is that it's kept inside a protected environment. So we'll still be linking here for that. Usage of the databases did increase with time, and I've looked here at February this year and February last year, and it's doubled, so I'm happy with that. And this is just for Britannica schools. What I found was if you focus on 2 or 3 databases and just really run with them, that helps. One of the biggest things that helped was getting the Year 7s as part of their induction into the library, getting them to use the OPAC. And as soon as we started doing that, and last year was the first year we started doing that, we found kids just walking in, and instead of coming up to the desk to ask, do you have Harry Potter, they'd walk straight up to the OPAC screen and just look for themselves. And that's what we were really aiming for. We still want them to come and talk to us, and they still do, but it's that level of empowerment. And then just roving around the library and saying, oh, did you know that you can find articles for that online, and I'll come over here and I'll show you, and oh, did you know you can renew things by logging into your site from home. And if a teacher emails and says you have, you know, this book or that book, we can say, yeah, well, just click here, log in, and have a look. If you have problems, let me know. So it's hard to do that in a way that doesn't seem rude sometimes, but I think just that getting people used to the idea of using online services is really, really crucial. So I'm not sure how much use it would be for you guys, but I thought I might, sorry, I'm actually working from home today, and my computer is not the way it was at work. I thought it might be useful just to quickly show you, some of my colleagues have asked me about these sites because LibGuides is probably the go-to product for creating a library website. But, you know, ideally we can get it so that it looks like a website, not like a LibGuide. So it still has all the functionality of a LibGuide, but it looks like an actual website. So obviously this is under construction still, but something to look into further if you're interested in this kind of stuff, and it helps. And things like what I was showing you before, integrating these little pieces of code in there so that you can put search fields in, creating drop downs and that sort of thing. CSS and HTML is really useful to know. You don't have to be an expert in it nowadays. So if you have Firefox on your computer, there's a wonderful product, free product called Firebug. And if you right-click on an area of the screen and inspect element, it will show you, you can go through and actually isolate each individual piece and see what's going on. So here it's showing me, for example, that the header 2 is this color, has this colored underline, is this font size, etc., etc. And you can test things out and change things without it actually affecting the website itself. And if you like the color of something and you think, oh, I'd like to change it to that hot pink color, you can copy that and go into your LibGuide, and so under look and feel, they give you an option, which is here, to add your own CSS. So I could change the color of something, which happens to be this one. And I've made it invisible. So maybe I'll put a little error in there somewhere. Oh yeah, there we go. It's very sensitive. Let's try again. There we go. So I've just changed the color of that, and that's live now. So it just trying to sort of show you that if you do want to create a library website to hold your online services, LibGuides can be an option, and you can have it linking off to your database, linking off to your catalog, and you can embed search fields. You can customize the menu. You can change the color of the tabs. You can do away with the tabs completely. You can cut and paste bits of code from other places, such as what I'm playing around with here. And there are just so many things you can do. But I guess the thing is to find out, just maybe do a bit of a skills audit for yourself. What skills do your staff have? Is there someone who's really good at graphics? Is there somebody who's really good at social media? Luckily for me, I've got a girl who works for me who's brilliant at social media because she's young and doing it all the time. Is there someone who's great at developing content? Someone who's good at editing? Is there someone who's great at getting the kids all excited and getting them on board? Does somebody know about coding? Does someone know about authentication? And can they be the person who maybe talks to IT and asks all the tricky questions? So there are all those considerations, and obviously getting a really good, robust, fully functional, useful online services up and running is a huge, huge task. But this is what we've managed to do in 2 years, 2 and a bit years, and we've seen the results. I mean, we've seen usage go up. We've got anecdotal accounts of, of usage increasing and of people finding that it's actually helped them. Letters from parents, oh, thank you for this, and my student was able to do their assignment because they had this this resource, and thank you letters from teachers, and it's so much easier now, we can do this, and all that stuff. It's very, very rewarding, and it lets you know that you're on the right path. But I'm hoping that in a year or two we will be totally integrated with the school's learning management system, and little pieces of the library will be planted here, there and everywhere, so that we are actually unavoidable. It's not that we're some hidden page that's this satellite page that hovers peripherally around the main school. We want to be everywhere. So that's the main thing. I thought I'd leave 5 minutes for chatting and questions. So, and I think I've been quite verbal and a bit, yeah. I'm hoping that you got something out of this. I know that it's bits and pieces, but I think looking at just the interesting points, these are the points that have stuck out in my journey. Student voice, learning how to do a bit of coding, learning about, Firebug, trying out different resources, helping kids with special needs and how the digital technology can really help them, that kind of stuff. Those have been the interesting points and the things that have made the journey really, really worthwhile for us. So I'll probably wrap it up there, I think, Adrian.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Chelsea. That was great. If anyone has any questions, please by all means pop them through. We don't have any questions at the moment, but sometimes they can come through at the end. So we do still have Chelsea for another couple of minutes. If we don't have any questions, maybe we have an early mark.
I've confused everybody. No one knows what to say.
Maybe they just understood exactly what you were going through.
Maybe they know it all anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm happy to take questions from any of you at a later time as well. And if you want copies of any of those documents and things that I showed, I'm happy to share those as well, because I think that can be useful, sharing those types of documents with colleagues.
Definitely. And we've also recorded the session today, so we'll share that with everyone that joined up. Yes, we do have someone that said copies would be fantastic, Chelsea.
Great.
So I'll pass all of those through.
Is there anything that I should go into a little bit more that I've talked about that anyone wants to hear about, or have I? Just hard to get an idea of what people are interested in when you can't see their faces. New experience.
And I think that there's someone who'd like to continue the discussion with you as well. So I can put you guys in contact with each other.
Okay, great.
But Karen, if you did have any questions that you wanted to ask through, then by all means, you can ask them now as well. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, then thanks very much, Chelsea, for that this afternoon. It was a great presentation. You covered a lot of information in a short period of time.
Thanks, Adrian.
And if anyone does want to send through questions or talk to Chelsea further about their experience and her experience with integrating library services, then I'm happy to put you in contact with Chelsea via email, and I'm sure she's happy to answer your questions.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Adrian.
Bye-bye.